Gareth A. Davis, my man. Obviously, I wasn't with you last week. I was away celebrating my birthday. I don't know if Tom Gray asked you, or I don't know if you said what you've been up to. So this might be a 2 week long. What have you been up to? But give us the lowdown on the last 7 days. What's the last seven
I
days
don't
been
think we
like for
did
you?
do the what you've been up to because that's just me and you, baby.
It is.
I'm
It
going to give
is.
you the whole fortnight because it's still with me. Um, George Foreman and Colin Hart, two
Mm,
massive titans of the sport of boxing, passing in the same 24 hours. That's been very reflective. A lot of writing, a lot of talking about them, a lot of reminiscing, a lot of recalling. Outside that, bare knuckle event in Wolverhampton last weekend, and it's actually on talkSPORT on Friday night this week. On the YouTube channel, we've got a little deal with them, and I'll be over there in Myrtle Beach doing the comms with Mike Goldberg. But I went to Wolverhampton, was stunned by another amazing event. Um, I've just been clacking around for the last week and a half, really missing you without, and not just the rhythm of my week was gone without doing the show with you. That's how important it's become.
sorry. I do apologize. My apologies. I was in Dubai, drinking cocktails, eating great food, enjoying the sun. It was a difficult one. I was thinking, should I just break up my little break in Dubai? But I was like, no, let me just really press pause and enjoy the sun. Although there is sun now in the UK,
It's
which is nice,
changed. It's
which is
changed.
very good. Very quickly, did you say you're doing the commentary with Mike Goldberg,
Yeah,
former UFC
yeah, yeah.
analyst Mike Goldberg?
Yeah,
Oh, that's
that'll be
good.
fun. I've never
Good,
worked with
good to
Mike.
see
I've
Mike
worked with him
back.
before, but not on comms, so I'm quite looking forward to that. And Jack Marshman
Mm,
of the UFC is fighting, formerly of the UFC, who's fought in everything, is fighting for the BKB Extreme Cruiserweight title against a guy called Cub Hawkins in the main event. So it's got British interest. It's at Myrtle Beach, somewhere I've never been before in South Carolina. So I'm
mm.
flying to Charlotte Tuesday morning, obviously before the show goes out, and then a little flight for 50 minutes to Myrtle Beach. Have you been there or not? It's on the coast. Looks a bit like Southend from the photograph.
I haven't. I haven't. I've been to some very random places, but not that one as yet. But that's a box
Yeah.
that could be ticked in a few years. Who knows? All right. No big events in the UK. There were smaller events. There always are smaller events, but no big events in the UK over the weekend, which is quite rare. Boxer did nothing. Matchroom did nothing. Queens. Oh, sorry, Matchroom did something on a
Yep.
Friday, not on the Saturday. Let's start with the big one in America. And by the big one, I mean Michaela Meyer versus Sandy Ryan 2. First fight, very close. First fight had its controversy as well. Second fight, I felt Michaela Meyer just ran
I
away with
agree
it.
with you. I enjoyed the build-up. I enjoyed Paintgate. I enjoyed the fact that Sandy Ryan was going to bring it. But there's levels in this game, and I think that that's the
Yeah.
truth about this. That Michaela Mayer set about her early, landed her punches, won the first 6 rounds, or maybe even the first seven, and lost the last couple, if you like. Um, you could
Yeah.
argue 8-2, 7-3, or 6-4 for Michaela Meyer, but it was easily a victory for her. Sandy Ryan wasn't up to it technically against Michaela Mayer. She buried into her, she bustled into her, she out hustled her, and she was faster to the punch, and even more so than last time. I know there was
Yeah.
a controversy with the coaches. I'm pleased that Michaela's now with Kofi Jantua, who I remember as a boxer years ago, who was a very fine boxer. Um, but I'm sorry, for me, she's going to struggle against Lauren Price in the undisputed.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that as well. Yeah, I saw two things from Saturday or early Sunday morning, if you like. One thing, Michaela Myers above Sandy Ryan. That's clear. I think we knew that from a boxing perspective, just because of Michaela's amateur record. She was quite a decorated amateur. Sandy just was bullish, but unfortunately, you need a bit more when you step up to those levels. But I also saw a Michaela Meyer that I think is going to be just not strong enough and not bullish enough to keep off a Lauren Price, who is as good, if not better, than her at boxing. So Lauren can do everything. She can box, she can punch, she can do a bit of everything. So if it comes down to a boxing match, I've just got to favour the
there's
Welsh
no
girl.
question. And she's a southpaw and a tricky southpaw, and she showed that in her last outing against Natasha Jonas. She didn't hurt Jonas in that outing, if you recall, when we discussed, but she was just too good for her, too quick, too elusive, too fast to the punch. And I think she'll beat Michaela Mayer to the punch, and she'll move and be very adroit in the ring. I think it's going to be a hard night for Michaela, and I see Lauren unifying all those belts at 147. You know, the other thing is that there's probably only, and I say this with reservation and with respect, there's probably only 30 women in the world right now who are delivering exciting fights, and Michaela is one of them. Because it was an exciting fight in lots of ways. She left it all in there.
It was an exciting
It was an
build-up as
exciting.
well. I think both
stayed
girls
up through the
done
night
really
watch
well
it
to promote.
live. Wanted to watch it. Got back from
Yeah.
talkSPORT. Got back from the show. Wanted to watch it live. But it was very one-sided. That's all I can say. Very, very one-sided.
Very quickly, on female boxing, before we move on to some of the other stuff over the weekend, Jake Paul has obviously done a thing now in terms of trying to get as many females or sign as many females as possible, which I don't mind because he gives them a lot of promotion, right? Ramla Ali's gone to him recently. Dina Torslin has gone. Alicia Baumgardner went a couple of weeks ago. What do you make of that? It's almost like he's seeing that there's an opening to really give female boxing the push it had 3, 4, 5 years ago.
He's always said he's going to give something back, and that's brilliant of him. When Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano fought the first time in Madison Square at Madison Square Garden, New York, that was his big thing. He was going to give back to women's boxing. It's his payback for his experiment, if you like, in boxing. I know we're going to talk about him today as well, but I think getting Baumgardner was a big thing. I mean, that's another option for Michaela Mayer, a rematch with Baumgardner, because obviously they love to smack talk, and that's a fight that could resonate in lots of ways. So you've got to applaud him for doing that. He's created the most watched women's fight of all time. Taylor Serrano, 65 million watching it live on Netflix. You can't really fault him for that.
I'm intrigued to see how many watch it now that it's the main event, as opposed to people waiting for Mike Tyson, Jake Paul. It's going to be intriguing to see the numbers. I hope it's good numbers because I think both girls deserve as much as they can get.
Well, the hard thing, Eddie, is it's an all women's card, so that they've set the stall out to do that. So, and one of the things that women's boxing, we saw it at the Albert Hall that half the audience when Tasha Jonas and Lauren Price headlined was that probably half the audience was female, and maybe even more than half. Yeah, exactly. But what they've got to do is attract men to watch women's boxing as well, because it's largely a male audience, boxing and fight sports.
Yeah.
And I say that with respect, again, not to be pinioned or pilloried for saying these things, but it's a niche sport, and largely dominated by a male audience.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's true. All right, I don't know if you caught up on Pat Brown's debut on Friday night. Matchroom put a next gen show. He headlined it, so they're going full in on Pat Brown and what they think he will become. Obviously, fights in the cruiserweight division. Good looking kid, 25, has an audience already. Sold a few tickets. Stopped his opponent in the early rounds of that fight. Would you make of this Pat Brown phenomenon, if you like? Everyone's getting quite excited about him.
I spoke to him on Saturday night as well, on fight night, by the way. It was good to have him on. He's a great kid. He's similar to Tom Aspinall in that he's been brought up in the gym from the age of 7 by his father, who's a boxer. He's in a very, very exciting cruiserweight division. He's got loads of opportunities. He's got loads of opportunities, both domestically and internationally, to fight different people. He's got an exciting style, and I think he delivered on the night. Like you say, his inception into the professional ranks was a very successful one. The hardest thing is about how you match him very quickly and bring him up to that level where he's going to be fighting Alois Jr. and these kind of guys in what are going to be absolutely unmissable barn burners.
Yeah, but look, Matchroom like him. I think they'll push him quickly as well. So let's see when he'll be out again. All right, so we went from Vegas to Manchester. We're now going to Mexico, Cancun, to be precise. Zepeda versus Farmer rematch. The first fight happened Riyadh season Latino night. Quite controversial. Some said that maybe Farmer did enough to nick it. So it was good that Golden Boy got it on again. And again, Zepeda struggled with Farmer. Again, maybe it's just a style thing. I don't know, but he struggled again. Farmer, some say, again, unlucky not to nick it. What do you make of Zepeda? Because he's been really hyped by Golden Boy, really hyped by a lot of people in America. And this is Farmer coming to the end of his career, at least from an age perspective. What would you make of Zepeda?
I think you've got to give people a night off. I think Farmer's very experienced. He knows his way around the ring. I think Zepeda will come. I think he's someone we must keep an eye on. I think he's exciting. I noticed, I think someone else noticed this yesterday. I was thinking, I wonder if we're going to hear from Shakur Stevenson after the fight, but no call out, no nothing, just keeping his powder dry. And Shakur is normally the first to comment on people, when they're in and around his weight division, where there are people who've been lined up with him. But it wasn't thrilling fare. Let's put it that way. It was a how do you keep yourself awake moment. Elbow me when the fight breaks out moment. So it's almost like neither man. I don't say wants to be in there, but no one wanted to take control of the bout for me. And we used.
Yeah, it was almost a fight that was. It was a fight that was there to be won by both. And it only seemed to get exciting in the last couple of rounds where they thought, okay, this is tight. If we steal these last rounds, we might win it. So it was disappointing. And it'll be interesting to see what Farmer does. I think Zepeda will try and go down the Shakur Stevenson route. I say try because I think Shakur's too good for him. Farmer's interesting because Farmer's clearly too good to be a gatekeeper, but he's also very risky for fighters because of his style and experience. There was a lot of talk, you will know this, Gareth, maybe 5 years ago, about him versus Deontay. They seemed to kind of be in everywhere they went, whether it be a cinema or a shopping center, they would always run into each other. I do wonder if maybe he's done enough to warrant something like that. Maybe.
Well, the trouble is, you can go to the other side of the coin and say, what about Deontay? I mean, there's so many fights we wanted to see him in that we haven't seen him in. With all three of those guys, if you like, you could bring up in terms of Farmer, Zepeda, and Stevenson. I'd see him in the ring with all of those. I think he potentially beats all of them as well, apart from Shakur, which the jury's out. I think the fight that will get made, and I do think it'll get made in the next 12 months, will be Shakur and Deontay Tank. But look, it's part of the landscape of the United States that boxing is asleep, and it really does need a big alarm clock. And I think that alarm clock is Turkey, TKO, and Dana White. And I think it will all happen. I think we'll see massive movement in the next 9 to 12 months in America. And also, my feeling is that when you heard Bob Arum, just going back to that card in Fontainebleau, headlined by Ryan and Mayer, is that Bob Arum talking about working with PBC now, working with Al Heyman. I don't know if you saw that at the weekend. They're going to work together more. And I think that's one of the keys that's been unlocked, or one of the doors that's been unlocked by the key that is TKO, White and Turkey, because they've got to.
Yeah. And look, Top Rank's contract with ESPN runs out in the summer. And so it'll be interesting to see what they do. I don't think they're going to have an output deal with just one broadcast. I can see them sort of working with several now, as opposed to having like a Golden Boy contract with DAZN where you're putting on 50 shows a year. I don't think it's going to be like that. Did you, very quickly, did you hear about Times Square event where 150 to 200 people will be ringside but closed to the public, which would suggest to me that it's going to be maybe tickets given away to celebrities and famous people. They'll be the ones that'll be ringside. What do you make of that?
I hadn't caught up with that yet. I was envisaging bleachers with 500 to 1,000 to 2,000 people. I've seen bleachers there before when they've had events in a pocketed off area of Times Square. I'm sure the tickets will be very tightly controlled. It's going to be. I'm
Very.
sure there'll be big screens up there so you can watch it from the environs as well. Listen, it's a packaged Friday, Saturday, Sunday extravaganza in lots of ways, because you've got that on a Friday night with Haney, Garcia, and Lopez in their respective fights. Then we've got Vegas. Then we've got Riyadh with Canelo and Skull, and Ajagba and Bacoli. And then we've got Noya Nui in Vegas on the Sunday, haven't we? Take your pick,
Crazy.
by the way. Do you know yet where you're going to be?
Times Square.
Okay, so you're not going to make it in His Excellency's jet over to Riyadh for the next day?
I'll see if there's space on the jet. If there's space on the jet, I'll happily take the extra seat, but I doubt it. I think it'll just be Times Square, and then maybe to Vegas for Inoue.
Are they both in the zone,
which
then?
I'm happy. No, just to watch Inoue,
Yeah,
just as a fan to go and watch him. All right, still to come, we are going to be looking ahead to Joyce versus Filip Hrgovic this weekend. We'll be hearing from Derek Chisora as well. He wants his piece of Daniel Dubois. But up next, we are talking the IBF heavyweight champion, Daniel Dubois, who has spoken for the first time since his fight with Joseph Parker was cancelled. Welcome back. You're listening to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2, Ade Oladipo and the great Gareth Ade Davies. All right, the current IBF heavyweight champion, Daniel Dubois, has finally broken his silence. He did a video on his Instagram and he sat down with Umar Ahmed for a long sit down for Box Nation as well. You can go and watch that on their YouTube channel. This is pretty much the crux of what he said. He said, I want to run it back with Parker. If they can get that fight on, that's the fight I want next. It's unfinished business and it's left a bitter taste in my mouth. I want to fight them all. I want to fight Parker. Hopefully, Turkey might hear this and make it happen in England at Wembley or something. I want to fight Parker. That's unfinished business for me. That's interesting, Gareth, because just even in that small bit there, he's mentioned Parker like 4 times. That's the fight he wants. It does look like they're trying to push him or maneuver him to an undisputed fight against Alexander Usyk. But listening to Daniel Dubois, it's Joseph Parker.
Look, it's very interesting because on 2 fronts. He's broken his silence, and I think he's been put up to go out there and say, look, here I am willing to fight everyone. He's come in for a lot of criticism since he was withdrawn on February the 20th with ill health from the February 22nd fight against Joseph Parker. I think I've heard you say, and I've said myself, that why not just organise a rescheduled fight for Joseph Parker, given what's happening with the sanctioning bodies? Because if the winner of that has 2 of the belts to fight Usyk for the undisputed, if he fights Usyk, it's undisputed. It's a fight everyone wants to see. The gamble, the weighing it up right now. What's the biggest commercial fight? I think it's interesting that he's calling on Turkey Al Sheikh there. I don't know why. No need to, because I think Daniel Dubois against Alexander Usyk sells a big stadium out in the UK anyway. I think Parker against Dubois is a slightly smaller fight in the UK. But it's not as big as Usyk fighting Dubois, but that wouldn't be for the undisputed. It's been a really weird period since February the 22nd. We are waiting for several heavyweight fight announcements, and it's almost like everyone's waiting for the cats to land. Someone's thrown all the cats in the air, and we don't know where they're going to land at the moment. I would love to see Parker against Dubois. I think Parker deserves a world title fight next. But I just think he's speaking out there. I think his promoters, like you say, Frank Warren wants the Usyk fight, doesn't he, for Dubois?
Of course, absolutely, yeah. 100% Frank wants that fight. And look, I've, as you say, I've let my feelings be known on this one. I think Parker deserves the rematch. I think Parker had a camp, got ready, sold the fight, and then not only that, but he stepped up on late notice to fight Bacoli when he could easily have said, you know what, no. 2 days notice, I'm not fighting anyone. I'll wait. So I think not only did he step up and fight Bacoli, he beat Bacoli. He deserves something. I think he deserves Daniel Dubois. I think you could go the WBC route for Usyk, and that's Kabayel. I think you could go Kabayel is the mandatory for the WBC. You make Usyk Kabayel main event, and you make Dubois Parker under chief support. So it's a weird situation, as you say, because it almost feels a bit like London buses. You wait for nothing. You wait. Nothing happens, and all of a sudden, you get so many at the same time. And I almost feel like we're just waiting for one fight announcement, which then kickstarts all the announcements.
Yeah, but let's do it this way. Who's Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury are over there at the moment. They're waiting for the right thing. I mean, I think Joshua should fight Wilder. I'm just going to throw that in there. I think Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua right now. I'd love your response to that. Who's the number 2 in the world right now? Is it Parker? Is it Dubois? Is it Kabayel?
Daniel Dubois.
It's Dubois. So Dubois should get the Usyk fight. I like.
No, but the problem is, that equation isn't that simple because Dubois didn't fight Parker. Dubois not fighting Parker's messed this all up.
So do we make
that
Parker
really is the
number 2
problem
in the world at the moment then?
But he's not fought Dubois. Yes, I guess, but he's not fought Dubois. This is the problem. Like Dubois shouldn't go down a step by not fighting, but Parker shouldn't go up a step by not fighting Dubois. It's so complicated. Okay, you know what? What would you want to see? Like, remove the fact of it should happen and this should happen. As a fight fan, out of that equation, so out of those 4, Kabayel, Usyk, Parker, Dubois, what matchups
Well,
would you want to see?
What are we waiting for? Are we waiting for Turki Al Sheikh to tick the fights, or why don't they get on with it? What would I like to see? I think in meritocratic terms, I think Parker deserves a world title shot. We haven't seen Parker. The problem, there are problems here with how you look at the algorithm of it. If Parker fights Usyk right now, it's not as big a commercial fight as Dubois fighting Usyk. Kabayel fighting Usyk will probably have to go to Germany, but it will probably sell out a big stadium in Germany because there's a way to do that. And obviously, years ago, I went to many big fights in Germany. They know how to do those fights. I think I know what's going to happen. I think Usyk is going to get this fight with Dubois. I think that's what will happen. I think Parker will end up fighting either a Joshua or he'll sit and wait. And I certainly don't want to see Derek Chisora going in against Usyk. But this is the weirdest thing that can happen is that Parker and Dubois fight and Derek Chisora gets a shot at Alexander Usyk.
That would be crazy. All right, let's hear from Mr. War Chisora himself, coming off a good win against Otto Wallin. I almost feel like the work that Chisora has done in the last couple of years has actually been forgotten because we're all wishing for him to retire. But he beat Otto Wallin, beat Joyce, and now he's in a situation where he's the IBF ranked number 1. And you caught up with him after his visit to see Usher at the O2 Arena, and he wants Daniel Dubois at Wembley. This is Derek Chisora.
Hey, listen, I don't want to call him. I'm not calling anybody out. I want him. I want my world title shot with Daniel at Wembley. I know I can sell out at Wembley. I don't know what. Listen, I know Daniel pulled out the fight with Joseph Parker. He didn't come out and apologize, but you know what? He's learning. You know, he's a good fighter. You know, he's just learning his craft right now. So, you know, people give him a slack. He'll defend his title with me because I know Joseph Parker wants to fight for the WBO with Alexander Usyk. So, listen, I want that fight.
Look, Derek Chisora, who obviously didn't really have his last dance because he wants another dance in the UK, but he's calling for Daniel Dubois at Wembley. And he is the IBF ranked number 1 because of the Bacoli-Ajagba situation. How likely is that? You talk about big commercial fights. Dubois Chisora is a big commercial fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, it was an absolute shock. He was in the box at the Usher concert, by the way, while he spoke to us. Who popped up on his shoulder? Ben Shalom was in there with him. So, I mean, we inhabit a weird sport. Look, imagine this. If Anthony Joshua had just beaten Joyce and Otto Wallin, we'd be saying he deserved a world title shot. So
Yes.
Derek's done that. So maybe he does deserve a world title shot. And he gave, it was admittedly a long time ago, I think 5 years ago now, nearly, he gave Usyk a hard time. I'd actually dreamt this the other day. Derek, because obviously Derek's trying to cut my hair off if he wins a world title. But what I've said to him is, Derek, let's both grow dreads if you win the world title. I'd rather do it that way around. But I had a dream about Derek knocking Usyk out and becoming the world champion. And he's done it at the age of 40. I could just hear the commentary. This is a weird...
Well, okay, one second. You've said twice there, Chisora Usyk. I've said Chisora Dubois. So you're more liking the idea of Chisora taking on Alexander Usyk as opposed to Daniel Dubois.
That's if Dubois and Parker do fight each other.
Okay. Again, this is all the weirdness of the heavyweight landscape at the moment. I feel like if Chisora fights Dubois, it leaves it open for Joseph Parker to fight Alexander Usyk, because obviously Parker's the WBO mandatory for Usyk's belt. So Parker gets his shot at a world title, Chisora gets his shot at a world title. The world is happy.
And Anthony Joshua fights Deontay Wilder, and we fight.
What is this AJ Wilder thing you continually talk about? Obviously, Wilder's now announced he's back.
I think it would sell, and it's a fight I want to see before the era is done. You clearly don't, but you know he's got his fight. If Wilder is able to pull the trigger, I'm jumping ahead here slightly.
Go ahead.
Tyrell Herndon, which he should do. If he can show he can pull the trigger, he's got a fight announced, and he can knock him out, then why can't we see Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder in a ring together?
Because what does it mean if he were to knock out someone that we have never heard of before? What does it mean? I don't understand. Like, if you were to be a Tyrell Herndon, and let's be honest, I mean, even you in your boxing encyclopedic knowledge, I've never heard of Tyrell Herndon.
I know that signed up for Wilder to knock out and look good against, so that he can come back, excuse me, and have one of these big fights.
I mean, look, I'm not mad at it. I'm against it a little bit, but I'm not mad at it. My thing is, and having watched Wilder twice now, up in close quarters against Joseph Parker and Zhilei Zhang, it's not there. No. It's no longer there, and I'd love it to be there, because we've missed a Wilder AJ fight. We might miss the AJ Fury fight. So I would love AJ to have fought one of those two guys. Wilder will be 40 in October. It's just not there. It's not there anymore. And I feel like we're trying to wheel him out and let's find him someone he can knock out just so we can get this fight, when we both know that the Deontay Wilder that was a wrecking machine several years ago just simply isn't the Deontay Wilder anymore.
Yeah. Having spoken to people in the background in the last couple of weeks to put the round on this with the heavyweight division, it's not satisfactory at the moment. It really isn't. I mean, there is a spanner in the works. I think it is going to be Usyk and Dubois. They're just waiting to see whether it's UK in the summer or is it Riyadh. Does Riyadh season want that? But if you look at the Riyadh season cards of late, there's no British fighters on them, and it feels like the focus is on America for Turki Al Sheikh at the moment. You know,
no, the last one had loads of British fighters.
One, but one's going forward doesn't have. There's no.
Okay.
Fighters on the Riyadh card in May with Canelo and Skull. There's no British fighters on the Times Square one. There's no British fighters on the Noya Nui card.
What about the Eubank?
We've got Eubank Ben coming up, but apart from that, that's the British card. It's honed to its own area, its own arena, and listen, that's going to be enormous. That's going to be a whole. I
do wonder if it's an interesting look at it. Actually, I do wonder if it's a case of America is so messed up right now. We need to fix that.
It's exactly that.
That's maybe the feeling behind having more American fights fighters on these cards, as opposed to, okay, we've done what we needed to do with British boxing. They're okay. Frank, Eddie, you're now talking. You guys can go over and do your thing. Let me work on America.
And let's be honest, it's missing from the mainstream entertainment and sports landscape over there. Gervonta Davis and Shaka Stevenson should have happened already. Haney Garcia too. We really want to see. It's a massive fight. Keyshawn, all these other stars, Tio. We need to see them all fighting each other. That's where the four kings, Hagler, Hearns, Leonard and Duran, fought each other 9 times. These guys could fight each other 11, 12 times if they put them all, that package. I call them the 7 princes. That group between 140, 135 and 147. That can happen. We've got Canelo against Crawford. Hopefully, if Canelo beats Skull in Riyadh, we've got that in September. America begins to redress the differences through the help of Turki Al-Sheikh in the next 9 to 12 months. So the boxing world is coming together again. But the heavyweights is still frustrating, Eddie.
Okay. All right. You're listening to Find Out Extra on talkSPORT 2. Next up, we're going to talk about another heavyweight showdown, as we're going to talk Joe Joyce taking on El Animal, Filip Hrgovic. Welcome back. You're listening to Find Out Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, Gareth A. Davis. We ended the last section by Gareth pointing at me, saying the heavyweight division is frustrating, and he is correct, it is. But it does get a little spicy on the weekend. A couple of really good heavyweight fights on the weekend. David Adelaide takes on Jimmy TKV. They fight for the British heavyweight title, that obviously vacated by Fabio Wardley. The main event should have been Joe Joyce versus Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte putting out with a finger injury. It now is Filip Hrgovic who steps in. Not seen Filip Hrgovic since he lost to Daniel Dubois. And someone sent me a tweet the other day saying, Ade, are we underestimating Filip Hrgovic? Like, prior to Dubois using elbows and headbutts, this is what they said, not me, he was actually lighting Daniel Dubois up. He was catching him at all times. Filip Hrgovic is still a very, very dangerous fighter and is a top 10 fighter. True or false? Top 10 fighter, Filip Hrgovic.
Number 8 in the division for me. Yeah. Still a very dangerous fighter. It was Daniel Dubois' brilliance that night, by the way. I mean, he got hit. I've spoken to a lot of heavyweights about Hrgovic, and he's got this right uppercut or this chopping right and his jabs. They come from different angles, people always talk about. They come upwards, not across from him. And he's a very interesting guy because you get hit by punches you're not expecting to see coming. Got a lot of time for Filip Hrgovic. He was on his way to a world title before the screws were taken out of the hinges in the door that collapsed and fell over that night against Daniel Dubois. But everything was to Dubois' credit. Hrgovic for me he's a big man. He's very calm, low resting heart rate. He's been around a long time. He's very experienced. And as a result, this is a better fight for Joe Joyce to get back into the mix if he can do the right things. It's a massive name for him. Hrgovic could still become a world champion. So this is a bigger opportunity. There's risk and rewards here, of course, but a bigger opportunity for Joe Joyce than had he fought Dillian Whyte, Eddie.
No, it's a good shout. It's a very good shout. Like if you were to beat a Filip Hrgovic, you're right back. If you were to beat a Dillian Whyte, there's still questions about Dillian Whyte and as to where he is. So yeah, I agree. But I also think it's the risk side for Joe here is big as well. If he loses to Hrgovic in the fashion where I think he possibly could lose, I think that could be that. Joe Joyce, 39, coming off a defeat to Derek Chisora. There was supposed to be a fight in March, which got pulled. I just don't know if there is a route back at 39 for Joe if he were to get knocked out.
No, that's it. That's it in a nutshell. He's got to produce. I mean, we've said that about Joe for the last 3 or 4 fights. He needed to do it in the rematch against Zhilei Zhang. He got back in order with a win he needed to get. Then he loses to Derek Chisora in a thriller, frankly, where Derek pulled an amazing rabbit out of the bag again. So Joe's stock is right down there at the moment, but a victory over Hrgovic puts him right up here and back in the top 10, frankly. But listen, I don't want to pour scorn on him. He's been a friend for a long time, and he should have won Olympic gold. I think he was robbed of Olympic gold against Tony Yoka years back in Rio. Joe Remember we used to salivate about him fighting the likes of Deontay Wilder because he could walk through punches.
Yeah.
Think about how high he was in our esteem, not just ours, but everyone's, when he knocked down Joseph Parker and beat him up in Manchester on a thrilling night that we were live at talkSPORT doing commentary for. So it's a big night for Joe Joyce next Saturday week in Manchester. On Saturday, sorry, in Manchester.
Yeah, he must be. Yeah, he must be looking at the heavyweight landscape, thinking, 1 second, Daniel Dubois is the talk of the town. I stopped him. Joseph Parker is the talk of the town. I stopped him. And where am I right now? So look, I mean, good luck to Joe. If he were to beat Filip Hrgovic, he's right back in the mix, but I think it's going to be a tough one. David Ade Oladipo is on this card as well against Jimmy TKV. David Ade Oladipo now with Adam Booth. And just the one defeat, and that was against Fabio Wardley, which all of a sudden doesn't look like a bad defeat considering what Fabio's been doing recently. This is going to be an interesting show, and I hear a lot about Jimmy TKV as a sparring guy. Like, he's very good. Everyone uses him for sparring, but he doesn't really replicate that in the ring. This is going to be a good fight, and you can see the winner of this fight potentially taking on a Fraser Clark, maybe the winner of Johnny Fisher versus Dave Allen. There's a lot of ramifications.
Absolutely. Well, the winner of this could end up fighting. Certainly, if it's Adelaide, I think they're looking at potentially Adelaide could fight Johnny Fisher in the 5v5 that Warren and Hearn are planning to do later on. That might be sooner rather than later, so it may not work out. But yeah, Fisher against Adelaide is certainly an interesting fight. And you mentioned Fabio there, by the way. I mean, I've been putting this out there for a while. He is expected to fight a big name American at Portman Road, the home of Ipswich, in June, headed towards that. I can't say the name, but Frank Warren may have even hinted at who it might be, but it is a big name American.
He has. I think he has.
And that's a great fight, by the way. But David Adelaide needs to prove himself. He's got the mojo back. He needed time away. It hurt him, the defeat to Fabio Wardley. He's a great, big, sensitive soul, Adelaide, a guy I've got a lot of time for. And if he wins this, he's in a good position to start challenging for bigger belts. And we mentioned Fisher and the Fisher Davis Spencer axis is still rolling on. He's got to win that, Johnny Fisher, against Dave Allen second time around. Very serious character this time around. I think he will produce a better performance. But domestically, we're getting really good fights. And also on this card, he was on with us on Saturday night as well, Addy, a guy I've got so much time for, Commonwealth gold medalist, robbed at the Olympics in Paris, frankly, Delicious Ori, who, when you stand next to him, you forget how big he is. He's an absolute giant. What a name.
He's massive. He is a giant, and that's why he was considering going to the WWE. In fact, he went to their performance center and tried out for the WWE. Yeah, he tried out for the WWE. Wasn't successful. No shame in that. He can go back to it, but for now, he puts on the gloves and he'll throw down for real. It's funny. Our producer Jeremy's kind of got the fight card in front of me. This will be my first time working on a Queensberry card. Obviously, Queensberry now part of DAZN, so I'll be presenting this. This is going to be obviously my first experience of the biggest fight cards in the world. This is about 20 fights. How many fights do we need on this? One name that does pop out, Mark Chamberlain is back against Miguel Angel Scaringo. Have I done that correct? Gareth? Scaringi. It's weird. Mark Chamberlain's last 3 fights have all been Riyadh season cards, but he needs to get back to winning ways. Obviously, last time out, lost to Josh Padley. As you say, Delicious Ori on the card as well. Khalil Majid on
Barney
the card.
Smith,
Jack Rafferty,
very talented young fighter.
Royston Barney Smith, yep. So, it's a shame that we lost a Cody versus Riakporhe, but I think Frank's done well to kind of keep this intact by getting Hrgovic there. Are you going to be at the fight card?
No, I am heading.
Oh, you'll be in America, won't
you?
You'll be in
America. States, to Myrtle Beach, BKB 39. It's live on talkSPORT on Friday night, by the way, streamed on the talkSPORT YouTube boxing channel, as is, I've got to give it a mention, Spencer Oliver versus Roy Jones Jr., UK versus USA. That's live as well from Chelsea Football Ground.
What is that? Very quickly, go on. Very quickly, before we wrap. What is that? Is that just sort of up and coming fighters. This Roy and
we have
Spencer.
Harvey
UK
Horn's one
okay.
of them. He's fighting at Superfly. He was in the studio on Saturday night. No, it's a series with Spencer Oliver versus Roy Jones Jr. And one's the team captain of the UK, one's the USA. There's money put up for it. Dennis Hobson's involved. Yeah, it's a great idea. But I've got to say, I'm sad to be missing this card. I was going to hot foot it back to try and get up to Manchester, but the timings don't work. But I'm looking forward to doing commentary for the first time with a legend that is Mike Goldberg, UFC fame for 20 odd years, ice hockey fan, still plays ice hockey with his son, and a new place to go to in America. And I always like to go to a new territory, especially with a Ferris wheel by the beach.
Okay, should be interesting. I'm looking forward to working with the great Carl Frampton for the first time. So, DAZN in Queensbury kick off this Saturday, and it should be a good one from Manchester. So it should be good. All right, you've been listening to Find It Extra on talkSPORT 2. Big thanks as always to Gareth. Safe travels, my man. Remember, if you've missed any of this show, you can listen to it as a podcast. Find it under the Fight Night banner on the talkSPORT app, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from. We'll be back as always next week.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.